It's 100 not out for TCR UK. Race 2 of the weekend from Donington Park on the Grand Prix circuit is the 100th TCR UK race, a series that began on a very cold April day at Silverstone back in 2018. Many people, certainly over the next couple of years after that, doubted we would make it to race number 100, but here we are. We've got a big grid of cars. We had a very entertaining first race earlier on in the day, and now we should have even more excitement guaranteed, because race 2, as ever, is the partially reversed grid race. The top 10 finishers from race 1 reversed, and that puts Harry Bloor, one of the youngest drivers on the grid and one of the youngest drivers ever to have competed in TCR UK, on pole position. There is a car that hasn't made it out onto the track. We'll cover that in a moment or two. But yeah, Harry Bloor, not the youngest driver to be on a reverse grid pole position. Alex Lee holds that record from a handful of years ago at Brands Hatch. But Harry, one of the two junior drivers on the grid this year, he and Finn Leslie, both learning rapidly in their debut season of touring car racing, and Harry Bloor has an opportunity now to show us what he's learned, starting from pole position. Andy McEwen, Paul O'Neill here in the commentary box. Paul, the sun is setting on what's been an entertaining weekend here at Donington Park, and I think we might have saved the best till last here. Reverse grid races are always good, particularly here at Donington Park, it has to be said. Over the years we've had some absolute crackers, and I'm sure there are a few drivers looking to try and put some troubles from this morning behind them.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, looking forward to this. I think there's some people who really think they've got a chance of winning this, and there'll be some people who think they've got a chance of being on the podium as well. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of the front people on this grid rolling over, because they're all in with a chance. And like you said earlier in the first race, it ain't easy for Adam Shepherd and people like that coming through from the back of that top 10 reverse grid to actually come through and do some damage, so to speak. So yeah, he's going to be up against it, getting past these fast people in front.
Some news after race 1, by the way. We suspected this might end up being the case. There was a penalty handed out to Callum Newsham for the contact that he had with Sam Laidlaw down at the Melbourne Hairpin. It didn't actually hurt Sam Laidlaw as much as you might think, because it would have given him second place on the grid for this race, except they gave Callum Newsham a penalty that dropped him back behind Sam Laidlaw, and that was pretty predictable. I think we all sort of saw that coming, including Callum himself, actually, when we spoke to him after the race earlier on today. However, Paul, I believe you spotted that Callum's car might be the one that hasn't made it onto the track.
Yeah, there was a car in the pit lane, wasn't there, when these guys went out for the warm-up lap, so it looked like Callum Newsham's Hyundai. So let's see if that is the case. I can't see him coming through at all, so maybe it's a pit lane start for him, which is a shame, because he could have clawed back some points, and it was a front row start for him, isn't it?
Well, exactly, and a really good opportunity for him, actually, to pull back those points after the disappointment of race 1 earlier on, a race in which he was pretty quick, it seemed, but just got himself tangled up in a couple of incidents early on.
Yeah, just a quick one. You know, we were talking about the parallel crossing of the car, the right front to the right to the left rear, and so on, just to keep the front axle as hot as they can get it at the start, or the rear axle, sorry, as hot as they can get it, so they don't slide the car. Some of the drivers weren't doing it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Finn Leslie was one of them. He said that it was better to keep what he had on the front, and he'd get a better start, and just hopefully crack on and not have too much of an imbalance in the race. So there were some people. Luke Sargent, I think, maybe swapped the tyres, but yeah, I think that to me signals it's quite warm. But the Goodyear tyre is a cracking tyre, and I've driven these cars without crossing them front to rear axle, and you can do it, but it just gives you a bit of a, is it going to stick down the craters?
Yes, I can imagine that is the case. I would certainly be wanting to do the tyre cross, but interesting that they didn't. This is something we see across any major front-wheel drive touring car series. The amount of comments I see on social media, Paul, of people saying, well, they don't do this in touring cars. They do this in touring cars. It is very much the go-to strategy with front-wheel drive touring cars, because, as we've said, you want to try and generate as much rear tyre temperature as you can. That is Callum Newsham's car then. He is still in the car. That's positive. What isn't so positive is it's only got 3 wheels on at the moment, because they're doing something in the left front corner. Now, that could be a number of things with no way of knowing what it is, but it's odd that they're only noticing it now.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's around the hub area, isn't it? You can hear a bit of spannering work going on there. Is that an upright? Let's have a look. Oh, so Yeah, they're checking for play in the hub or something there. But like you say, they would have checked this before, but Callum would have probably drove the car to the pit lane and said, it's not doing this, or it's not doing that, or it's feeling like it's doing this on full lock. So yeah, it could be a problem. Them Hyundai seem to have a little niggling issue with anything steering-wise, and that's what Alistair Camp had as well.
Yes, which, again, you're on form today, Paul, because you predicted that as well, didn't you? I'm not quite sure how, but yes, he did confirm that to us after the race. It was a steering issue that took him out of the race. Luke Sargent there was not particularly happy with the start infringement penalty that he was given. Now, he was planning on appealing that, I seem to recall. I think that appeal was unsuccessful because it's still showing as the penalty on the result sheet. Yeah,
he was telling me that obviously he didn't jump the start, but the problem was his camera wasn't lined up properly. So when they looked at it, they couldn't really tell. But if you do look from another car, apparently it shows that he really didn't jump the start. But they can't. They've got to go off his camera. But yeah. There's a lot of lights on them dashboards in this car, and you can see if it's got full brake pressure on for the start strategy. And apparently his red lights were on, so that meant it had full brake pressure. So yeah, a lot going on, and I wouldn't want to be a clerk. Let's just put it that way.
I did have quite a funny moment chatting to him about that very thing, and he said my handbrake was on, and I know my handbrake works. He then turned around to see his car rolling forward in parc ferme as he was stood the other side of it. Right. So
well, I'll retract that then.
Yes, exactly. Right then, the car's about to be released onto the green flag lap then for the second race of the weekend. As I said, 100th ever TCR UK race. We really hope that Callum Newsham will be able to take part in this race, but still the team are working on the left front corner. Appropriate, really, that this 100th race takes place at Donington Park, because Donington holds quite a lot of TCR UK records. The fastest ever race took place here on the national circuit just 2 weeks ago. That third race that Callum Newsham ironically won was the fastest ever TCR UK race. The fastest ever race lap in average speed was here back in 2023. The fastest qualifying lap the same year was set on the national circuit. And the Donington GP circuit is the circuit at which we had our biggest ever grid of cars. 25 cars lined up here as part of the British GT package back in 2022. So appropriate that we're celebrating this milestone at what has always been a fan and driver favourite circuit.
Nerd.
Just because I have to do the homework of two people, Paul.
That's very true, mate. Imagine letting me loose with stats. Like, I'd get them for the wrong circuit. No, that, to be fair, not to take the mickey, mate, but that's some very interesting stuff, that is. And yeah, I love Donington GP. Look, this place looks fantastic.
Love to say it's because I've got too much time on my hands. That absolutely isn't true. Harry Bloor has pole position, that much I can tell you. Callum Newsham, I don't think, is going to be lining up alongside him. Sam Laidlaw and Luke Sargent together on the second row of the grid. Sam will be desperate to bounce back after the disappointment of race one. Finn Leslie, Mr. Consistency as he's becoming known, starts fifth alongside the Lincoln Co of Ryan Bensley. Then Steve Laidlaw and Bradley Burns on row number 4. Adam Shepherd and Brad Hutchison, top 2 of course, after Burns' penalty for his jump start in race 1. They line up together at the back of the top 10 as a result of that grid reversal. Then series promoter Stuart Lyons has Will Beach alongside him. Steve Laidlaw's car stationary, but firing back up, it would seem, at the old hairpin. We'll get to that in a moment. George Jackson and Mark Smith will have the 7th row to themselves, and Greg Saunders with Alistair Camp at the back of the field. So there is Alistair Camp at the back. They've got that steering issue fixed, they hope, and he is out on circuit. But Steve Laidlaw has had a trying day, hasn't he?
Nobody wants to win this championship, do they? Yeah, he has, and that was interesting. He's done a full reset by the looks of it, so turned all the master electrics off and tried to restart the car. It looked like it was going again, but when we did go back to it, I don't know whether the lights were flickering on Steve's car, but we'll see. Callum Newsham, front left wheel was loose when it come in, apparently, and that is my mate Jade Edwards telling me that, who is in the pit lane. But yeah, that's an interesting one. But if it was just a loose wheel, I don't think they'd be messing around so much with the actual left front suspension as well. So there were obviously something going on there. So something's come loose.
Steve Laidlaw almost collides with Ryan Bensley and Finn Leslie because he's trying to get... I was just about to make the point that he is allowed to do this because he didn't fall to the very back of the queue. He had one car behind him. The other drivers probably weren't expecting that, and he's just gone straight through the national chicane. Is that car damaged?
Is he going straight to the pits, or is he can't, he wouldn't do that. No. If he cut the circuit and then went to his grid box, he'd be in trouble.
No.
Just so you know, That's caught everyone out. That's caught the director out, the camera person. Wow. Just so you know, that's why there is a rule that you're only supposed to use 50% of the track to warm your tyres.
Yes.
Because, I mean, you're not really going to be looking in your mirrors and you shouldn't be overlapping. But if there is a car that hasn't gone all the way to the back of the grid on the start of the green flag lap, then it is entitled to take its grid space, like you know.
Well, I know because Mike Simpson told me that yesterday. I had never heard of that specific rule before in all the years. Here's the replay. Well, they are using 50% of the track. It's just they're using the middle bit of the track, which is not really ideal. Leslie got even closer, I think, than Bensley did.
I would hate to see your fractions and make that looked to me like 75% of the track. And I'll be honest, I never use 50% of the track to warm. I use 100%, but I do look in my mirrors a bit.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Could you imagine Finn Leslie? Literally, I spoke to him in the break, and we're having a really good chat about budgets and things like that. He is literally doing this by the seat of his pants, and for him to have a little accident like that, then, which he got away with, that could have cost him, running for the next race. So I'm glad that he's got away with that.
No, good point, well made, Paul. Right then, the car at the end of the pit lane, was that Callum Newsham? It might have been. Hang on, let's look out the window. No, it was Steve Laidlaw. Steve Laidlaw at the end of the pit lane, not Callum Newsham. So Laidlaw will be a pit lane starter. The 100th TCR UK race has already given us plenty to talk about, and we haven't even turned a wheel of racing. That is about to change, though. The red lights go out, away we go, and Harry Blore goes nowhere from pole position. Now gets the car started. Disaster for the youngster. It's Sam Laidlaw who gets the early advantage, with Luke Sargent trying to fend off Ryan Bensley and Finn Leslie for second place. Leslie on the inside, Brad Burns to the outside. They're three abreast. There's some leaning, there's some sliding, and Leslie barrels his way through. Here comes Shepherd to the inside as well. Bradley Burns ended up in the dirt and might lose out to his big rival, you would think, for the race victory. Shepherd alongside him. He is sideways on cold tyres. A dramatic opening 30 seconds or so of racing. They drop down through the old hairpin for the first time. Harry Blore is almost at the back. What a dramatic start, Paul.
Wow, that was a dramatic start. Look at Bradley Burns, though, into third place, round the outside of Finn Leslie. I think that was brilliant stuff. Look at the Audi with the yellow flashes on the front, just going through your shot. Ryan Bensley was up there, but then got sandwiched at the first corner. Steve Laidlaw has left the pits, but it sounded like he was stuck in either second or third gear. It didn't pull away in first gear from the pit lane exit.
No, I thought I heard that, but we'll see whether or not he can get up to speed by the end of the lap. Adam Shepherd here on his toes, up the inside of Finn Leslie and wanting to go after Bradley Burns. That's exactly what he's doing. He gets past Finn Leslie into the chicane. Nice, clean move. Well, sort of. He almost had a meeting. The tyre stack, Harry Blore likewise. Very sideways on cold tyres, and that has split the pack now as they drop down into the Melbourne hairpin. Ryan Bensley gets to the inside of Leslie too. Finn Leslie going backwards a little bit more than you might have anticipated here on this opening lap of racing. He's got Brad Hutchison now, the race one winner, right on his tail, and Brad, in fact, is looking to the inside, I think, into the final corner. He's late on the brakes. Hutchison goes through, and Finn Leslie, I hate to say it, Paul, but seems to be struggling on cold tyres.
Yeah, does. Somebody's got a problem.
Burns. That was the same thing as race one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was some kind of fluid flying out the car. Looked like he was going slow as well.
Well, except he's overtaking Luke Sargent, so he can't be going that slowly, I suppose. Luke is hanging him out to dry. They bang doors on the exit of the corner, and Bradley Burns, fluid coming from the car or not, is on full attack here. Into second place he goes, inches between the two Audis, and Sargent on the dirty side of the road had to just about keep it on the track and had no choice but to give second place away. Bradley Burns led to second position. The pace he showed in race one, do you think he can catch and pass Sam Laidlaw?
I'm not sure, but Luke Sargent did say to me his bet for this race was Sam Laidlaw, because Sam was super fast, wasn't he? He had fastest lap, like you say, in the first race today.
Indeed, he did. A lap record as well, therefore, around the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. We're on different tyres now than we were last time we raced here. That is Greg Saunders through the gravel up at McLean's corner. Greg had a gravelly moment in qualifying here a couple of weeks ago, but survives this one without bringing out a red flag and rejoins right in front of Steve Laidlaw. Adam Shepherd, meanwhile, ahead of Luke Sargent. So Shepherd is sort of going with Bradley Burns, but always kind of an overtake behind the Audi driver, if you see what I mean. He's a couple of seconds back now, but we'll try to bridge that gap over the next few laps. Brad Hutchison's got past Ryan Bensley. It's all going on.
This is flat out, this, isn't it? I just hope they all finish. Don't want any damage on these cars. It looks like Bradley Burns is super fast and catching the leader. Sam Laidlaw. They are teammates and they're running for area, so I don't know if he's going to be too aggressive. And that little splash of fluid again, I don't know whether that has come from Bradley's car, because a couple of people were just splashing that fluid up as they all go into red gate, and it's line astern. No one's having a big moment except for Harry Blair, who is now being overtaken, and that's job done from George Jackson. So he's had a bit of a rough old time of it there, the number 11.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, isn't it? But he will learn, and with every round that goes by, I'm sure we'll get a little bit more competitive. There is Shepherd, Luke Sargent in his wheel tracks, then Hutchison and Ryan Bensley. So Laidlaw leads the way. Burns in second place, neither of whom have won a TCR UK race in the past. We've had 29 drivers, different drivers, who have stood on the top step of a TCR UK podium over the years, and it looks like we might have a 30th different driver by the end of the afternoon, because Shepherd, far from going after the leading two, he's actually struggling to get away from Luke Sargent.
Yeah, Luke's just in the tow now, isn't he? That's what Luke needs to do. He just needs to keep his head down, and he's had a podium before. I think it was at Silverstone. So he knows what he's got to do, Luke Sargent, to get on the podium. But let's have a look and see what happens.
Phil Kinch is agreeing with me that I'm a nerd, but also I've heard from the circuit commentary team it was sheared wheel studs on Callum Newsham's car. So what's caused that, I don't know. But it was certainly very loose. It was almost falling off completely, it would seem, as it came into the pit lane. Right, there's the battle for the lead. It's not quite a battle yet, but it's going that way, isn't it? Because Bradley Burns has put in a purple first sector, a purple second sector, and surely is about to set the fastest lap of the race in his pursuit of Sam Laidlaw. Yes, he does. A 1:33.8 is 4/10 quicker than the leader. 1.2 seconds, therefore, between them as they go on to lap number 4 of the race. Shepherd, by comparison, a 35.2, so a full second slower than the race leader. That compensation weight that the championship leader's carrying into this weekend is really taking effect, isn't it?
Yeah, and it will do, especially when you're in the slow zones, like the last sector, where you're actually on the brakes hard, you're having to accelerate from slow speed, that weight moving around in the car and just making it a real difficult job to get you in and out of them slower corners. In the fast stuff, you can kind of deal with it. Just move around a little bit laterally, but not too bad. Speaking about laterally moving about, it's the battle of the Hyundai, isn't it?
Now, if ever there was a fight I'd buy a ticket to, Stuart Lyons versus Alistair Camp is right up there. Stuart would very much like to get one over on Alistair Camp, I am sure. Camp's been a customer of Stuart's for a long time, racing in the Miltech Civic Cup, now in TCR UK. Camp, a former champion in Civics, of course. He's now up the inside and has gone by Stuart Lyons, but Stuart didn't exactly make that easy for him. That is, I think, Will Beach, isn't it, now closing in on the pair of them? Yes, it is. And Will jinking around behind Stuart Lyons. He's having a hard time of it in this second race. Stuart just about keeps the Cupra behind. Someone's clipped the tyres at the chicane. Wonder who that was.
Well, that looked like a black car, or something has come off a black car, hasn't it?
Maybe Sargent, possibly. That out. It's black anyway at the front, but it looked like it was missing a corner. Well, here's the answer, Paul.
Well, it isn't Shepherd. It is Sargent. You're right.
Ooh,
Sargent's going to understeer wide now, isn't he?
No, it was Hutchison.
Wow, Bradders.
Okay.
Wow, okay.
Slightly unsighted, I suppose. He was quite close behind Luke Sargent. That's often how it happens, isn't it? When you're quite close behind another car, it is difficult sometimes to see where the corners of your car are lining up to the circuit furniture.
Wow, yeah, but you know, well, yeah, that's going to cause Brad a bit of chaos, that is. A little bit of loss of aero, but won't do much in the way of aero on this car. But if it's mechanically damaged by that strike on the left front, it'll be interesting to see. It'll knock the toe out or something.
Yeah, that's a shame, isn't it? But still going at least, which is an improvement upon any of the races here a couple of weeks ago. Right, this is the fight for the lead, and now I am more inclined to call it a fight. The two grey and highlighter yellow cars getting themselves together. Burns clearly quicker, but quick enough to make a move?
I think he'll be definitely quick enough to make a move. I will be surprised if he makes an aggressive pass on his teammate at Area Motorsport.
Of course, yes. Both running with Area. That's another one of the... Oh, Sam Laidlaw, huge moments on through the chicane. How did he save that? Well, that made life very easy for Bradley Burns, but that was the save of the day for Sam Laidlaw, who, remember, failed to save a very similar slide at the national chicane a couple of weeks ago and ended up in the fence. He's learned his lesson. He's lost the lead, but he could have lost an awful lot more.
Oh, my word. That was, I cannot take fourth gear through there. Yeah. That was a massive moment. That car just got so much front end. I thought he was definitely in the wall. He just planted the throttle and got it out. But like you say, he did the same, but going the other way last time at the national circuit and actually hit the wall. But that time he kept his foot pinned. This will be a good replay, won't it?
Yeah, so turns into the corner. It's settled over that first curb, isn't it?
That is full-on Tokyo drift. Give yourself a round of applause. I love how he pulled to the right, gathered his thoughts.
Yes.
That is, look at that for a slow-mo replay. That's brilliant. Look at the angle of the steering. That's lock stops and full throttle. The problem you've got is when you're in 4th gear, you can hardly get it out. Look at that left rear, then he's stopping.
That is remarkable. Forget pulling over to the side of the road. I'd be in the pit lane after that to catch my breath. That is incredible stuff.
That was brilliant because it reminded me, and it didn't go obviously on its wheels, but a bit like a Tarquini moment through there where it looked like it could have been horrendous, but he gathered it all up. Great camera work, that. Fair play.
Great camera work, great car control, and perhaps still a battle for the lead to be had, because actually he's now closing back in on Bradley Burns, having gathered his thoughts and set a purple middle sector. So there you go. How's that for confidence for Sam Laidlaw? Meanwhile, Alistair Camper's caught and passed Finn Leslie, who I think was waving at Campy there to let him know he's not going to come back at him. So that puts Alistair into 7th position now in the battle of the Hyundais. He'll be the highest placed of the Hyundais now, won't he, as well? As a race start is under investigation, and I wonder who that is, Paul.
That could be the same person who got a 10-second penalty before, Bradley Burns.
Okay, well, I didn't spot it this time, so I can't be blamed for dobbing him in on this occasion, but the stewards will have been watching, and there is the confirmation. It's under investigation. No penalty confirmed yet, but that will be a little bit of a worry for Brad, if the team even choose to tell him. I mean, I don't know why they would, really. But anyway, he's got the lead, but struggling to get away. 1.1 seconds the margin, and almost identical lap times between these two last time around.
Yeah, they're going at it. I've been really impressed with Sam Laidlaw. He has been... You know, his dad, Steve, is super quick, but Sam has been a level above him this weekend, I think.
Yes, he out-qualified Steve, didn't he, yesterday afternoon, and he's, had some dramas in the race earlier on, so too did Steve. So they were pretty level pegging coming into this one. Sam Laidlaw, though, driving well, has certainly given us the moment of the day, and might yet be able to provide a challenge against Bradley Burns. And, of course, if Burns does pick up a penalty, then Sam Laidlaw could inherit a race win. A reminder, if you weren't with us this morning, by the way, Bradley Burns as a guest driver doesn't score championship points, so Sam Laidlaw in 2nd would be on course at the moment for the maximum haul of points, and that's significant because I definitely see Sam as a title contender. Yeah,
definitely. I was just watching, I was pointing at the screen then, Andy, you've seen Adam Shepherd weaving down the straight.
Yeah.
Last time I seen him do that was when he had a fuel problem, and I'm sure he hasn't got one now, but he's probably still having cold rears, and it's interesting, isn't it, that Sam Laidlaw had that massive moment through there, through that chicane in 4th gear. I do think these Cupra cars are very nervous at the back, and they've got a fantastic front end.
Yeah, which you need to go quickly, especially around a circuit like this one, but it does mean you're hanging on to it sometimes. Slightly faster that time around for Bradley Burns, 33.6, 33.8 for Sam Laidlaw, but he'll be pretty happy, I think, that he is lapping comfortably quicker than Adam Shepherd. Shepherd just put in his personal best lap of the race. It was still 4/10 slower than Sam Laidlaw's pace on that previous tour. It is Hutchison 4th, Luke Sargent running well in 5th, so too Ryan Bensley 6th, then Camp, Leslie, Beach and Lines to complete the top 10. Callum Newsham, by the way, got out on track, but he is a couple of laps down. He is in 16th position as Stuart Lyons goes grass tracking at Redgate.
Yeah, I think he's obviously run over his wallet or something there, hasn't he? he's gone into Redgate. He's going to sack me, isn't he?
What would unsettle a car more, running over Stuart's wallet or those big sausage curbs at the chicane?
Stuart's wallet.
I thought so. Stuart is having fun. We're only teasing him because he's in the car and he can't hear us. I'm not even convinced he watches these races back. This is what happened. Understeers wide at Redgate, Paul.
Oh, that was actually nicely caught. He was understeering, then he oversteered, corrected it, but he caught a left rear in the gravel. I mean, this camera, I'm so impressed with this camera work. It's like, forget the racing. These slow-mo cameras, they're so cool. I love it.
A big thank you to Hayfisher Productions for all of their hard work over the day. It really is an enormous team of people who goes into providing these live broadcasts for the British GT weekends, and we're very happy at TCR UK to be back on their package. Right, Callum Newsham overtaking, in inverted commas, Greg Saunders, but not for position. Saunders is the next car ahead of him in the running order, but there's a lap between between them at the moment. Bradley Burns 1.8 seconds clear of Sam Laidlaw, still only under investigation, so no penalty coming yet for Brad Burns. The stewards have got 7 minutes to make their mind up, otherwise this will be something to be investigated after the race, which we'd rather avoid if possible. It is a shame about these starts for Bradley though, because apart from that, he hasn't put a wheel wrong either today or indeed over the weekend as a whole.
Yeah, he's been exceptional, hasn't he? Really, really good, and a good kid as well. I love him to bits. And George Jackson just getting one put on him by Steve Laidlaw, so that problem for Steve has obviously gone away. But lap time wise, Steve has not been super quick. No, he should be a lot quicker than that, I would have thought, but he has been in traffic, and it'll be interesting to see if he's not been able to get a low enough gear to get through the hairpins, I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm wondering. His best lap of 35.3, I mean, that's 1.8 seconds off the pace of the front runners, so even if you take Burns out of the equation, it's still a second off really what you'd expect to see from him, so it does make me wonder if he's fighting some sort of niggly little gearbox issue. But, you know, Steve's another driver who's definitely gunning for the championship this year, and we've always said, haven't we, that you win a championship, not on your good days, but on the days where things aren't quite going to plan. If he can salvage any points out of this race, which he's on course to do, that could prove crucial at the end of the year.
Yeah, definitely. I will go with that. But Shepherd is definitely having a good day, isn't he? And Sam Laidlaw as well, if he finishes where he is, he's going to be, I mean, he's right up there in the championship.
No, absolutely he is. He had an all-right debut or opening weekend on the national circuit. He scored some more good points earlier on this morning, not as many as he would have liked, but race 2 could be a different story. Getting confirmation now that Brad Burns' start will be investigated after the race, so we're not unfortunately going to have a definitive answer on that one for you by the end of the broadcast. I urge you therefore to head over to the TCR UK social media pages where you will be updated, I'm sure, as and when a decision is posted. You should be liking and following them anyway, but now even more reason to do so. Bensley on the attack, nice to be able to say that. Ryan Bensley getting stuck in and I think closing slightly on Luke Sargent.
Yeah, Sargent kind of went for him early doors, didn't he, and got him into a submission. But oh, this will be good, because behind him is Alistair Camp, which obviously they've had a few battles in Miltech Civic Cup, so I'm looking forward to what happens here. But Sargent really needs to just keep looking forward. But Bensley's been great, I think, this weekend. He's just kept chipping away, not done anything stupid, and hopefully he can have a good battle to the end now. But Campy's going to have him, isn't he? Yeah,
Camp looks quick, doesn't he? The front of that Hyundai's always worked well, hasn't it? Not a hint of understeer through coppers. He's alongside Bensley, and Ryan, I think, might have waved him by there. Ryan knows when to pick his battles. He knows Camp is quicker, and he knows that if Camp now goes on the attack after Luke Sargent, that could be Ryan's opportunity to get past the Audi.
Yeah, definitely. And that Lincoln Co. of Bensley's is so good traction-wise. So out of these tight hairpins, it is mega. But he will be hoping Campy sticks a move on. Look, he's having to come out of the power in that Lincoln Co. He's so good on traction. But yeah, I think you're right. He's sticking the lights on now, flashing the lights, Campy, to try and distract Luke Sargent. So let's see what happens with this one. Oh, he's gone wide already.
Yeah, Sargent wide, but then the Audi has pretty decent traction as well, which rescues the situation a little bit. And Alistair Camp, I don't think, is close enough for a lunge into Redgate Corner. No, he's not. Stays exactly where he is. All three of these drivers, of course, have experience racing in the Miltech Civic Cup, the other championship run by Stuart Lyons' Maximum organisation. Even Luke Sargent had an appearance or so a year or two ago. Bensley and Camp, of course, both race winners in that series. Camp, a former champion. Lots of dust kicked up through the grader curves. I wouldn't want to be turning into the old head with dirt on my tyres, Paul.
No, not at all. But I think Luke Sargent knows the strengths and weaknesses of his own car, that Audi. So he's just trying to get out of the corners with longer straights as best he can, because he knows they'll struggle to get into him unless it's a short straight like this one. And this is where Campy will try and get underneath him and use the nose of that Hyundai.
Yeah, has he got the traction? He did a lap ago against the Lincoln Co. I think it's going to be the same story against the Audi. He's got alongside. It's the outside line into the chicane. He has not cleared Luke Sargent, though, and Luke is certainly not in the mood to wave him by. The Audi a bit better in a straight line. Sargent carries the speed in. Watch for Bensley to get a run on the pair of them. Yes, he does. Nips to the inside of Alistair Camp. Well, he waved Camp through earlier, but now he's got an opportunity to get the place back. No, backs out of it, and Camp able to hang on to the position. But a good example there of how this could very easily fall into Bensley's lap.
Yeah, definitely. That's exactly what Ryan Bensley wanted in the Lincoln Co. He's trying to get somebody else to do the work for him, but The Audi's strong in a straight line, isn't it? Strong.
And yet over a lap, there's very little in it. That's the joy of the balance of performance within TCR. It's something drivers like to complain about endlessly, but this is the kind of racing it produces. Cars that have different strengths, different weaknesses, but over the course of a lap, over a race, over a season, it remains very, very close. Speaking of close, Alistair Camp almost trading some paint with Luke Sargent as they exit Redgate Corner, but the traction of the Audi keeps it ahead for now.
Oh, this will be so frustrating. All that Campy's got to do now is try to stay as close as he can. This is where he's going to be very, very close, but he won't be able to get a move. Oh,
got on the curb.
He did a bit there, and now Bensley's back in the game, and he doesn't want to be that close. But what will happen is they'll be so close at McLean's that Campy will try to get the run again into Coppice.
Yeah, we know that's where Camp has an advantage over the Audi, it seems, and let's see whether he can utilise that again this time. Well, he's helped by the fact that Sargent is defending into Coppice Corner. That is naturally going to cause the Audi to wash out wide anyway, and we know that Camp's Hyundai is capable of taking that tight line, which he does. So, almost an exact replay as what we had a lap ago. Sargent's Audi on the inside, Camp's Hyundai on the outside. Is Alistair feeling a bit braver on the brakes? Yes, he is. Sends it into the chicane, turns across the nose of the Audi, avoids the tyre stacks this time just about, and that might be job done.
That's a great move. And now the Lincoln Co. of Bensley's down the inside. Is he of both of them? No, he'll probably pull out of that, but he should get past. Yeah, they're both past Sargent.
That was textbook for Bensley, wasn't it? That absolutely went to perfection. And actually, he's got the traction to force a bit of a mistake out of Camp. Can't quite do it, and then just gets across the nose of Luke Sargent's Audi before they arrive at the final hairpin. They're got to sort this out soon, though, because we've only got one more lap to go in this 100th TCR UK race. Across the line they go. Camp does move into the top 5 now, and let's hope he can keep that together to the flag now. Deserves a good result. Sargent trying to sell the dummy there to Bensley, but Ryan was wise to that.
Yeah, Ryan's wise to that. I think Luke won't be happy that Bensley's mugged him there. He won't be happy that Bensley's mugged him. He's just got to get his head down now, Ryan, and follow Alistair. But that was great. Do you know what? That was mega driving. You never really see that. Through that chicane, it's usually contact, so that was great.
Yeah, well, full commitment from Camp to go around the outside, and then, as we said, Bensley read that situation, sort of almost orchestrated that situation, and was able to come out of it on top. Well, Bradley Burns, he may have this slightly dark cloud looming over him, this start procedure investigation that will be investigated after the race, but on the road at least he is going to come home a race winner for the second time this weekend. It could very easily have been a double for Bradley Burns had he not had the penalty for a similar infringement in race number 1. But Bradley Burns on his TCR UK debut, this time at least provisionally, is going to claim a race victory. He will become the 30th different driver to win a race in TCR UK, in TCR UK's 100th race. Out of the final turn he comes. He heads for the checkered flag. Bradley Burns is a winner in TCR UK at Donington Park. Sam Laidlaw will take the race winning points though behind the guesting Brad Burns in second place. And Adam Shepherd, it's not been a headline grabbing weekend for Adam this, but more solid points and 2 more podium finishes in the bag for him. Fourth, a lonely 4th place in the end, will be Brad Hutchison, and Alistair Camp may be my driver of the race there from the back of the grid to a top 5 finish.
Yeah, proper stuff that was. And again, staying out of trouble, Finn Leslie, he's done a great job as well. Fantastic stuff. And I think Will Beach has got Steve Laidlaw. He was catching him, but yeah, he stayed in front of him. Good effort.
Yeah, Laidlaw's pace never did get any better, did it, unfortunately, and Will Beach able to take advantage of that. Stuart Lyons gets ahead, or stays ahead, of George Jackson and Harry Bloor, who did at least survive his scary moments on gold tyres earlier on. We will expect in the end Mark Smith and Greg Saunders through to complete the runners, because Callum Newsham actually pulled into the pit lane a lap ago to retire the car. So that's a big dent in Callum Newsham's championship hopes, but quite a few drivers there, Paul, did themselves the world of good from a championship perspective, and Brad Burns goes some way towards righting the wrongs of race 1.
Yeah, definitely. And I hope Brad doesn't get a penalty, because that was an exceptional race from him. And the pressure he put on without even getting close to Sam Laidlaw was pretty immense. And that's what, in the end, just put him in a bit too fast at the chicane. So fantastic. But Sam Laidlaw as well, excellent stuff. And good to see Shepherd driving like he's not used to, because it's usually every win you can. But he was on the back foot there. Good effort.
Well, Bradley Burns claims the win provisionally. There is an investigation to come post-race. Sam Laidlaw will get the maximum points, though, as the top full-season entry in second, and Adam Shepherd comes home in third. Brad Hutchison in 4th position ahead of Alistair Camp. Then it was Ryan Bensley and Luke Sargent after their terrific battle for 6th position. Finn Leslie 8th, 9th Will Beach, and Steve Laidlaw completes the top 10. Stuart Lyons was 11th ahead of George Jackson and Harry Bloor, with Mark Smith and Greg Saunders. The last of the runners, Callum Newsham, sadly was due to start on the front row of the grid, but wheel issues unfortunately meant that he started a lap or so down from the pit lane and eventually retired the car with 2 laps to go. So Bradley Burns then nets the race victory. It's rare for a driver to win 2 races in both races of a double-header weekend. I'll get my words out in a moment. I know he didn't win race 1 with that penalty, but if we pretend for a second that he did, that would have been quite an impressive achievement. One of the last times that happened was here a few years ago. Max Hart winning the 2 races on the Grand Prix circuit that weekend, except he got to keep the victory. Brad Burns may end up with nothing to show for the weekend, but at least on the road, an impressive performance that from Bradley Burns. The 100th TCR UK race got off to a dramatic start. Harry Vloor had been drawn on the reversed grid pole, but had too much wheel spin, car bogged down from pole, and he plummeted to the back of the order. It was Sam Laidlaw who grabbed the initial advantage, whilst a 3-wide moment between Luke Sargent, Ryan Bensley and Finn Leslie ended in almost inevitable contact. Brad Burns, the eventual race winner, spoiler alert, nearly got wrapped up in all of that, but managed to avoid contact and then started scything through the order. He had a bit of door banging with fellow Gen 2 Audi runner Luke Sargent. That, though, in the end went Burns' way, and he moved into 2nd position. There was, though, a potential start infringement penalty looming over Brad for the 2nd time this weekend. More on that post-race, as Greg Saunders had bigger and more immediate troubles as he went through the gravel trap up at McLean's corner. Brad Hutchison clipped the tyre stack through the chicane. Sam Laidlaw nearly had an almighty accident at the same point, somehow saving that slide, but losing the lead to Burns in the process. Alistair Camp went to the outside of Luke Sargent at the chicane, which was the action hotspot in that race, and Ryan Bensley, with some brilliant opportunistic driving, was able to pick the pocket of Sargent and get ahead of his race-long sparring partner. On the road, at least, it was a victory for Bradley Burns, but maximum points and a big benefit in the championship fight go to Sam Laidlaw.